Okay, Cindy, we are at 6 o'clock. Do we have all of the council members?
Sorry, I haven't quite got there yet. Evans, Soroka, Martin. I don't see ready.
We will give him another minute.
And I saw Councilmember Cope, but now we've lost him.
No, he's there.
I'm here.
Okay, you just don't come up under council. Sorry. Okay, it appears we're all here.
Cindy, I log in using the board docs. I don't know how I'm supposed to do it, but
That works. As long as you're here, I'm good.
Okay, well, let's go ahead then and call the Johnston City Council work session number 21-02 to order. Cindy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cope,
here.
Evans,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Ready,
Here.
Soroka.
Here.
Great. We have just one agenda item this evening, and that is to review and discuss the proposed FY 22 budget. And Jim, I'm assuming I'm going to turn it over to you first. Or maybe not.
No,
Jim or Teresa?
Well, it was the plan for Jim to talk.
he's having technical difficulties.
Is he?
Put your mask on, Jim. Here I come.
Okay. Can you guys see the memo that I have shared?
Nope.
Okay. Oh, now she's not letting me
There you
share.
go. Now you can do it, Teresa.
Okay. Now can you see it?
Yep. Yes.
Wonderful. So Jim and I crafted a rather lengthy memo. Apologies for the length of the memo, but we like to review everything that we've covered so far in all of our work sessions and our discussions and things like that. And what Jim was going to do at the beginning of the meeting was try to cover some of the highlights, but to begin with, if the very last page of the document talks about the agenda for tonight and what we wanted to do for this budget discussion. And basically we were going to review this memo, talk a little bit about the current budget status, and review some of the supporting documents that we had with the memo.
Lisa, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy. Okay, let me just go ahead and start. I'm sorry I had some technical problems with my audio, so.
Here's where I was, Jim. I pulled up for him and I was just going through what the agenda was for the budget, and then you can go back, or the budget discussion, and then you could go back and highlight and review the budget memo as you wanted to this morning. So as we said, we were going to talk about these items, go through our addendums that we have with it. Our finance committee, which is Councilman Cope, Councilman Evans, and the mayor. Jim and I are meeting on Friday, a week from Friday, to talk specifically about some policy decisions and discussions regarding like local option sales tax and things like that, and what else we need to finalize after tonight. But to begin with, I think Jim was going to hit some of the budget highlights. So Jim, I'll scroll back to the beginning of the budget or wherever you'd like me to be.
Just go ahead and scroll back to the beginning, Teresa. So I'm just going to make a few comments. I know you all have had this information review prior to the meeting, so I just wanted to point out a couple of items. We won't spend a lot of time on this because I want to spend most of our time talking about what direction we want to go with the budget. But I do want to thank all our department heads and Teresa and Cindy for all their work on putting the budget together. Basically, what you have this evening is all the budget proposals that were presented to the City Council in December, as well as decision packages that have been prioritized since the last meeting. You all had all the decision packages presented to you in December. Now we've done a prioritization to show the council which ones are at least recommended from the staff perspective, although I know all of them are important and necessary, but you've got to draw the line at some point in this process. So the first thing, we're on page 1 here, and again, I'm just going to highlight a few things and then sort of the middle of this page going down. We notice, or we recognize that we had just recently completed a community survey and did our strategic planning for the City Council. We have not adopted the survey yet. That's on the agenda for this evening. And obviously we still have a little bit of work yet to do on the strategic planning, but I think that provides us the direction that we need as we take a look at this budget and decide what our priorities are going to be. And so if you look on the middle of that first page right now from the community survey, traffic flow is a high priority for citizens, as well as quality of recreation facilities and maintenance of sidewalks and maintenance of streets. So those are some of the highlights from the community survey. There's a lot of information that we'll go through this evening as well. And if you look at the lower part of that page, page 1, these are some of the high level priorities that were established by the City Council during the strategic planning process. We will get the final strategic planning report in February, and the council will take action on that. But I think this gives you a good idea of the top things that we had talked about. This probably will change a little bit, but at least those are the items that we highlighted when we went through that process. A lot of the information in this memo is really just sharing information on, for example, growth, residential growth, commercial growth. As a growing community, we have more and more needs to address what our citizens and businesses desire for services from the community. I do want to mention as well, with this budget, this is the FY22 budget we're taking a look at, which begins July 1 of 2021 and goes through June 30 of 2022. When the staff put the budget together, they also looked at the FY23 budget. And this is the second year that we've done this. And I think it helps give us more of a long range view of where we're going with our budget, particularly as we adopt the, listen to the survey information we got from our citizens and then adopt the strategic plan. On page 4, if we could scroll down, Teresa, just a couple of things here. Go back up. Right there. Yeah. So just a couple of things I wanted to point out. This talks about some of our community characteristics, and the information provided in the 2 bullet points there just show that we're not only just a place where people live and work, but we also attract, because of the type of community and type of businesses and organizations, we attract large numbers of people throughout the year, particularly Corteva and Camp Dodge, who have thousands, hundreds of thousands, well, Camp Dodge in particular, hundreds of thousands of visitors every year. So it creates some additional responsibility on our part to make sure that we have good transportation and public safety services. So this information is a little bit dated. It's 2018, 2017, but I will update that. Actually, 2020 is not a real good time. I know that a lot of things have been impacted. I'm sure the visits to Corteva and Camp Dodge and other places in the community have been affected greatly as well. The other thing I just wanted to point out real quickly is below those 2 bullet points, we do check with Polk County Assessor's Office, and we have about $114 million of tax exempt property in Johnston, which means we don't get taxes to pay for the services that we provide for many of these properties. That does not include the value of any Camp Dodge property. That's basically other properties in our community that are tax exempt. So just wanted to point that out to the council. Let's go ahead and move to page 7, Teresa, if you would. Just stop there at the there you go, under capital improvements proposed for construction in 2022. So as we went through and worked on this budget, the one thing that really just amazes me sometimes is, you know, I would consider this budget more of a status quo budget. We're not suggesting a significant tax increase, or you know, we don't have some of the revenue that we would anticipate that we have gotten in past years. But you know, even though this is more of a status quo budget, if you look at the capital projects that we have proposed for construction or continuation of construction in 2022, or even planning in 2022, it's a long list. And so, you know, I just like to point this out to the council because, you know, we have and continue to have a lot going on, particularly as it relates to public capital improvements within our community. And you can see the many things we're going to accomplish during FY22 and beyond. So I think this is a good list to refer to when we discuss with citizens what we're going to accomplish with the budget that is being proposed, and that is included on this page here. The other side of that, if you go down to page 9, Teresa, and just the very top of page 9, included in the budget and the information that you were given is our capital equipment program. And we've got the list of capital equipment that is included in the decision package memo. It's the last page there. And again, there's quite a few purchases that are proposed, and again, doing the best we can with the limited resources that we have. We still are in the need to replace equipment and make sure that we have good operating equipment for our staff to provide service to the citizens. And so as we look at the capital improvements part of the budget and also look at the capital equipment program, you know, again, we're doing a lot with some of the limited resources that we have within the budget. The next several pages, we just provide some historic information for the city council, such as what's happened to the water rates, what's happened to the sanitary sewer, and also our stormwater utility. So we just provide that for additional background for the city council, because our budget is not just what we collect in property taxes, but it also includes the utility funds that we have, that we serve our citizens with. And so that does, wanted to point that out. If you look on page 13, which Teresa has up here now, these are the requests that we get from organizations that we have historically provided funding for. We know that we have some challenges this year because of the COVID and the revenue that we typically would get from hotel motel tax. But I just want to let the council know we have basically plugged in the numbers on what we currently are providing for funding. And that's not an indication that that's what we're going to provide in this budget, but at least we've got that information in there so that we're not starting from zero. We're not coming to you and saying, okay, here's where our budget is. Oh, by the way, we need, you know, $8,000 or $10,000 for the Chamber of Commerce. We do have the amounts in the current amount that are being provided to these organizations. The two exceptions are community education and the Johnston Arts Council. Community education, actually, their requests went down based on the formula that's established in our agreement with them. And the Arts Council didn't get the opportunity to spend their funding last year, or in 2020 because of COVID. So they're not requesting additional funding, just clarification that we would intend to pay for the mural that would be in the town center. And so I just wanted to point that out. The others have requested additional funding that we'll need to consider with the city council. So moving on to page 15. This is where we talk about the current status and recommendations of the budget. In the beginning, or the top part of it, we talk about what we can expect, or what we've been provided by Polk County as far as growth and valuation within the community. Since 2020 was not a reassessment year, the growth that we have are basically on new building permits and new valuations added to the community. There's not a adjustment of taxable value on existing properties with this budget. That happens every other year. And so in 2021, there'll be a reassessment, and that will be reflected in the next year's budget. Just about the middle of the page, we've got a statement there where we basically say, you know, as we discussed tonight and after tonight, what impact the proposed budget has on property taxes, you can equate about $15,571 per penny of property tax. So that just helps us sort of calculate where we are as we have conversations about the budget tonight and in subsequent meetings. So moving down to the bullet points there, I just want to highlight basically where we are, the bottom line of where we are in the budget that's been proposed to the preliminary budget that's been proposed to the City Council that we're going to talk about tonight. Our preliminary FY22 property tax calculation calculates to $10.69 per thousand of assessed valuation or taxable valuation. And so that is an increase of 6 cents per thousand on the current levy. Right now, our current levy is $10.63, and $10.69 is what is calculated when you add in our valuation updates as well as the requests from our department heads. Where we are as well as in our general fund reserve, we're at 24%. And as the council's aware, we try to maintain a general fund reserve around 25%. In the past several years or many years, we typically have a little bit more in our reserve fund than that 25%. And so that's what we primarily have used in the past to pay for some of our decision packages, as well as we would pay for the decision package as well as reduce our property tax levy with some of that reserve funds. This is the first year, and we knew this year was going to happen at some point in time, but we don't have a lot of additional reserve, and we're already at 24% for our budget, or what we're talking about this evening. So I just wanted to point that out to the City Council. If you look at the third bullet point, we have for the last many years tracked how much property tax dollars we collect. And so the budget as proposed, it anticipates increase of property tax collected is $659,978, or about 3.97% of additional actual dollars that would be collected on the budget that's been shown this evening. If you take a look at the property values that we had from the growth in our property value, that grew 3.28%. If you recall, last year when we budgeted, we had 8.81% growth in our valuations. So we have a lot less growth in valuations going into this budget time. So with that, let's go ahead and go to the top of page 16. And this is where we, in the bullet points there, we talk about it, what the recommendation is. And the bullet points there is we recommend that the operating budgets proposed by department heads would be approved and programmed. That there is some increase programmed in those budgets to take care of wage increases, insurance premiums, utility costs, some of our facility operation, those kinds of things. So the budget as proposed does include all of those items that we need to be mindful of, and some of the increasing expense we have. The recommendation is to consider an increase of 6 cents on the property tax. That does maintain our general fund levy and our debt service levy where it is currently in the in our current tax rate. We have a decision package memo that's been provided, and there's some recommendations there as far as funding decision packages. This would establish a reserve at 24%, a little bit under the 25%, but pretty close to that, and sort of reflective of where we are now. I want the council to know that of all of our reserve funds, we're really at 30%, but we typically take a look at just the general fund reserve when we talk about how much reserve funds that we have. And that document, if you look at, that was provided to you on Exhibit A, which shows the different reserve funds that we have. And then the final thing is, due to COVID-19, we've had a significant reduction in the hotel motel tax, which is the primary source of funding that we've used for the outside organizations. So That's something that we just need to consider as we review the budget and determine if there's going to be additional funding provided to any of those organizations. We are limited if we use hotel motel tax as the source of those funds. So again, that's a real quick review of where we are with the budgets. I think we can just stop there, maybe just start having the conversation or seeing if there's any questions the council has related to that. When the time's appropriate, Mayor, we can go ahead and I can highlight the decision package part of the documents as well, so you can have an understanding of what's being proposed regarding decision packages. So with that, I guess maybe we can stop and see if there's any questions on the information that's been provided so far.
Does any of the council members have any questions for Jim or for Teresa on the memo?
I have a question, Mayor. So a 6% increase in property tax levy is what is being recommended, and it's $15,000 for every penny. Is that correct?
Excuse me, Rhonda,
Jim?
let me just clarify, 6 cents, not 6%.
Oh, I'm
6
sorry.
cents
I
on
meant
that.
6 cents.
Yeah,
So
no, I
for
just want
every-
to, yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to clarify that.
Yeah. So for every penny of increase, it's $15,000 worth of revenue.
Yes,
So we've got $90,000 basically as an increase in the property tax levy.
yes.
Okay.
Teresa, yeah, just correct me if I'm not saying that correctly.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay.
So my first thought was to thank you guys for all this wonderful work, because I went through it and it was very well written and very well explained. And I appreciate what you guys did already to get to this point. I have two concerns, and then I'll let everybody else speak to theirs. But my two concerns are, one, it is tough times for our people. Not very many people, I think, are going to get raises this year, at least that I know of. And a lot of businesses have suffered dramatic changes to their revenue. And I'm going to ask the question, what could we do to not have an increase in the property tax levy? And then my second thing, which is actually going to add money to it, but the feral cat program that the police chief has presented, I'm opposed to that. I think it's in the $4,000 range of expenses, which is supposed to be a saving from what they're currently spending, but I don't know what that savings is. But I will tell you that feral cats are known for killing migratory birds. And they're like the #1 killer of birds, that plus loss of habitat. And I would be happy to go with the chief to any of these communities where they have a number of feral cats that they're hosting, and have conversations with them about what the problem is with allowing feral cats to continue unabated. I'm a cat lover, 100%, but I don't think that this is the way to go. So those are my two comments. Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
So yeah, this is Councilman Cope. One of the things that we kind of glossed over a little bit, and maybe Teresa, you can give us a little guidance on, is local option sales tax money, sort of that money that we received for the first 6 months that we had it in place and that we haven't spent yet. How much money is that in total?
$1,513,312.
So basically 1.5 million.
Yes.
And that money is, we can spend that money. Obviously, we have the kind of the language that we had in our ballot language, but that language is pretty broad, right? I mean, so 50% has to be used for property tax relief. But,
And then-
but I mean, right now, we're using it to provide more than $1 worth of reduction in the debt levy. So, I mean, I think we've sort of met that criteria.
Right. The remainder has to be applied directly to public safety expenditures, public infrastructure, public parks, sports and recreational facilities and trails, and public library uses. And
So
you're
if I
using-
may just, and thanks for bringing that up, Councilman Cope. So where that $1.5 million came from is a year ago when they started collecting local options sales tax in January, we had not budgeted any of the expenditures from January to June because that came in, the election came in after we had already set our budget for the FY20 budget. And so beginning July 1 of FY20, we're now using that and then actually reduced our property tax rate by more than $1, as you mentioned, to provide that property tax relief. So that $1.5 million is a local option sales tax that we collected in that first 6-month period that was not budgeted because we didn't have the vote at the time that we budgeted for FY20. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that's where that money came from. So just want to make sure we all understand where the money, how we collected the 1.5 million.
So I guess the reason I brought up the local option sales tax is, the two thoughts that I've got that I'd like to see happen in the budget would be, one, to eliminate the 6-cent property tax increase. So take it back to 1063. And I think Councilwoman Martin outlined many good reasons for that. I also think that keeps our levy at when you combine all the levies, it keeps it at $1 or $2 below where we were before the local option sales tax. And I think especially when you look at the sheet, one of the attachments that shows the comparison of the levies between Johnston and the other communities in the region. The things I've really noticed, and if you go back, if you looked at this chart, I think it's Exhibit C. If you would have looked at that total tax levy chart, if you go back 5 or 6 years ago, Johnston's kind of place in that would be about 4th, like it is today, but we're much closer today to the lower. We're much more competitive today than we were 4 or 5 years ago. Ankeny, Clive, Urbandale, and this is just all sort of from memory, and it might be helpful, Teresa, maybe if you have one of these charts from like 2015, 2016, that 2015, 2016 tax year to maybe circulate that. But because we provided that $1 of relief, we've made our property tax levy very competitive, and we're within 60 cents of the lowest levy of all the communities that are listed here, which is, I think, much better than we were 5 or 6 years ago. So anyway, I'd like us just to consider using and I guess what I'd like to propose, and then to run this kind of by Teresa and have her come back and say that's, look at that as an option. One would be to eliminate the 6-cent property tax levy increase. And then the other item I'd like to see would be to also use those lost dollars or some sort of funding mechanism to fund the decision package 3 under personnel of a second police officer. And so that we would accomplish 2/3 of what Chief McDaniel requested as far as the police officer request. I think that would show a real commitment to something that I think is really important to make some real progress in that area. And so that would be the two things I'd like to see changed on the feral. So those are my 2, I guess, items for the staff. The one question I would have for Councilwoman Martin is, so how does eliminating the $4,200 for the feral cats increase the spending someplace else? Can you explain that to me?
I would have to have the chief explain it because he's never given us, I don't think, a dollar amount for what he currently spends on that program, which is to trap the cats and take them down to the shelter to be neutered. or for them to take the cats, there's a cost to that, so.
Yeah, I guess I'm not, so I'm kind of ambivalent, certainly willing to listen to more on the back and forth on that too, on that item, but like, those are the two things I guess I'd like to see. One, the 6 cent, as Councilwoman Martin suggested, and then also the second police officer. And I'd suggest lost, our kind of extra 1.5 million in lost be a potential use of proceeds from that. That would be about $210,000, would leave us still with, I think, a sizable balance in that lost budget if we need to retain that for other needs for future years down the road.
And I guess I'm going to jump in, and basically Tom said everything I wanted to say. I want, and Rhonda, I agree with everything that they've said. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Tom and Rhonda.
Thanks, Jim.
Councilman Soroka or Councilman Reddy, do you have comments?
Yes, I do. Everyone's reading each other's minds tonight. Because yeah, I agree with everything Councilman Evans and Cope and Councilwoman Martin mentioned. And so nothing to add there. And then on the feral cats program, just chuckles that we're discussing feral cats, but on the feral cats program, I thought, wasn't the point of that to essentially decrease the population of feral cats by trapping them and then, neutering them and stuff? Which I thought the point of that was that would help things like birds and that type of thing, because there'd be less of a population, but maybe I have a misunderstanding of the program. So that might just be something we can discuss later.
Yeah, we'll ask Chief to just review that again for us once we get through some of these more general comments. Anything else, Councilman Soroka?
No, just thank you. Echo of what everyone else said, of a lot of thorough work clearly put into it. And so appreciate, I love a good long memo. So thanks for laying everything out like that. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, this is Suresh. I agree with what Councilman Soroka said and Tom Coop said. We need to look up that increased levy of 6 cents and see if that can be replaced with the lost funds. And that way we don't have to, 2020 has been a really bad year for everybody. So we don't just want to increase the taxes on top of everything else. So I think we should reconsider that.
Can I throw out one more little thing?
Sure.
And this is really kind of just my own personal thought, but item 26 in the capital deal about the Public Works building retrofit.
The decision package?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm kind of wondering if that might be kind of a bad idea this year, with people struggling and whatever, and we're giving a facelift to a building. I kind of wonder if we might want to put that off. The building's not falling in, it's ugly and it's broken, but I just want to throw that out there.
Just appreciate those comments, Councilman Evans. Just to note, the funding that would be used for that would be, it is not property tax dollars. We actually have reserve funds in our road use tax. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. It may look like it's sort of an excessive expenditure given today's environment. I just want to make sure everybody realizes it's not property tax driven. It's not paid for from property taxes. It would be paid for from reserve funds within our road use tax.
Never mind.
And I would
there's
just
gonna be
add,
some, excuse me, Mayor. I think also, I think Matt's here, but I think there was also going to be some energy efficiency improvements with that building. Councilman Evans, I think that was part of
Yeah.
the hope too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
there was, we were gonna insulate the inside of that. Right now, it's a cold storage facility, so it just gives us better protection of our equipment that we do have. As well as we've got some holes and other things in the building that we try and keep patched up to keep the animals out. So it just
The feral cats.
Can
Yes.
you see the decision package page, or do I not have that up for you guys?
It's not up.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Evans, back on the building number 26, I think also, the funding sources side, I think that our residents do appreciate it when we maintain our assets, our facilities. It's not like we're building a brand new building that's going to look like a Taj Mahal Public Works building. We're just fixing up one that we already have, and I think they appreciate that when we can do that. So.
Yep.
Chief, do you want to address the questions around feral cats?
Certainly, at least I'll do my best. How's that? So the premise of the feral cat program is one, to try to control the population. We've got, I believe it's a dozen or so different locations throughout the community where we have an increase in population in cats. And one of the challenges in just trapping and removing them is, beyond the financial aspect of it's $125 per animal to trap them and remove them. It's very difficult to catch the mother cat in all of this. So when we're doing what we've done in past years is basically you end up capturing a litter of kittens, in essence, take them to the Animal Rescue League. You may spend $600 or $700 or something close to that in getting all those kittens transferred over, and we never get to the root of the problem. So the goal with the feral cat program is not to simply choose one or the other. We're not just going to trap or just going to neuter. It's trying to get to the root of the issue. So the investment of the $4,000, that's based on 50 procedures in the first year to try to catch as many potential mother cats as we can, to neuter them, and then not have some of the same cost. The cost is going to be between $50 and $80 per procedure versus that $125 just to transport them to the Animal Rescue League. So it's the hope is to control the pet population. And I took Councilwoman Martin's comments to the ARL after the last time we discussed this in the budget. And there's a lot of information that they provided as far as it being a natural control of the habitat and to help control the bird population. So I'm not an expert in either, and it's really not my stance that we can do one or the other more successful than the other, if that makes sense. But realistically, we haven't done a lot in the last year, so we're going to have to make sure we're doing something this spring. So if it's just a matter of trapping them, then we will do our very best to trap them out at $125 a head and try to remove as much of that population as we can. I don't know what the cost is going to be and what the recurring cost is. So the hope is with the TNR program that there may be a potential to reduce the recurring cost once we get some of those animals neutered. So that's the premise of it. It's really not a principal issue for me either way. It's just a matter of trying to find a cost-friendly solution in the long term, I hope.
So how have you, Chief, how have you been paying for the, up to this point, the catch and take down to the animal shelter?
How long I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question. How long have we been
I
doing
mean,
that?
you've had a budget to this point to
Yeah.
take care of this issue, correct?
We've had a budget in place. There's roughly about $4,000 in revenue and expenditure, more or less, in the animal control budget. So it pretty much is cost neutral for the most part. In the recent last couple of years, we've seen a pretty significant increase in transporting cats or kittens versus your typical stray dog that we impound, hold for 3 days, and then take to the Animal Rescue League. So there's an influx there, an increase in expenditures there, but it's by no means disproportionate with our overall police department budget or the animal control budget either.
And one of the first things you said, Chief, was that you're having problems catching the female cats, the mother cats. You get the kittens are expensive because they don't care that it's a kitten and there's 6 of them, or one single cat, you're paying the same amount for all of them. But you're also saying that you're going to save money by catching the feral cats and neutering them. So it sounds like you're saying that you are going to try and catch the mother cats. You can't get them now. Whoop, sorry.
Yeah, we absolutely try to catch them. It's just a matter of what we're hoping with is some of the folks that are in these neighborhoods that are feeding the cats and treating them as pets and those sorts of things, that we can work with them to catch that mother cat, to be able to get them the procedure that they need and reassure them that it's going to be a community cat versus something that we've actually had instances, at least one instance in this last year, where we actually caught a mother cat, transported it to the ARL, and then a person that had adopted that paid the fees for adoption of the animal, and then came back and released it back into the community again. So it's the mitigation piece comes with those that are supportive of the community cat and trying to work with them, and they act obviously way more tame with someone who's feeding them and caring for them in some manner versus us putting out steel cages and baiting them and that sort of thing.
Okay, so again, this shouldn't be a huge issue for our talk here, but the reason I oppose this is that cats, outside cats, domestic cats, feral cats, they kill a lot of our migrating songbirds. And that cat that got transported to the ARL, and that person adopted it back, I don't think they would have got it back without having it be sterile. So it didn't go back and have more kittens. If you sterilize feral cats and then put them back in the neighborhood, well, they're still going to kill the birds. And I think that what we should do here is work with Janet on a communication effort about how bad it is to have feral cats and how they kill a lot of songbirds, migrating birds. And so I don't know that we have to talk anymore about it, but I'm going to remain opposed to returning cats back to these neighborhoods. I'm telling you, Chief, happy to have neighborhood meetings. I will go to them and I'll take the lumps, and I'll bring along my pet cat with me.
Councilwoman Martin, I hear your concern and I agree with it. I'm wondering what other communities, what is the alternative? What do other communities do with these cats to ensure that they aren't running loose and killing migratory birds?
Get people to not think about it like when you grew up on the farm, like I grew up on the farm, we had barn cats, they killed the mice.
Right.
That was fine on the farm. But now we have these neighborhoods where they're feeding the ducks and the cats and the raccoons and all that other stuff because they never grew up on, I mean, they see that all as doing a good thing, and it's not doing a good thing, and it's bad. It is bad for our migratory birds. And as I understand it from some of the stuff the chief sent me, there are people that are going to be passionately against this. And I'm just going to say it's not right. They're not natural predators in our woods. They shouldn't be there.
Well, go ahead.
I mean, I guess what I don't understand is that, to me, I think we're doing one thing today, and then the chief is suggesting to add this TNR program as second thing, and then Rhonda, you're suggesting an additional third item. Why can't we do all three? I mean, to me, it seems like you could do all three of these things, and if you don't do what the chief is talking about, then you won't be able to kind of ever capture the mother cats and get them neutered, which to me is kind of your long-term plan. I don't have a lot of faith in a long-term plan that we're going to change the hearts and minds of people who are kind of sympathetic to cats. I'm not one of them. So and neither is my wife, and that's why I married her. But that's a longer story. My suggestion would be to do all three things. And I don't really know why eliminating the TNR program will end up with more mother feral cats in town, which I don't think is what any of us want.
I'm against returning trapped, neutered cats to the wild. When they get taken to the ARL, they are processed at the ARL, either adopted out or they are put to sleep and they're neutered. So I don't know that there's three options.
Well, could you just do the trap and the neuter and drop the return? I don't know. I mean, why do you have to the ARL requires that? I don't know, or what?
If the ARL is going to do it, they're going to charge what they charge. If we take the cat to the local vet and he charges us $50, now we have a neutered cat. What do we do with it? It needs to go to the ARL. Because I'm sure the chief doesn't want to become the adoption agency for Johnston, and neither do I.
But we don't need to make a decision on this tonight. This has been a good discussion. I've learned a lot about what happens with feral cats and what the options are. So let's continue to have the discussion and think outside the box and see what can be done. I think we all recognize what the problem is. I think we just need to work together to find the right solutions.
This is John. If I could add just one thing, I will tell you that this is when I think Councilman Cope, I think you asked what other communities are doing. This is a major issue in a lot of other communities. There are a lot of ornithologists that are really pushing this right now, especially at the county conservation level. I think they are starting to look at options. So I do have a lot of friends that are fairly high on trying to push getting feral cats out of communities. So certainly it's something that if you want, I can be involved and get some of my friends that are ornithologists involved with this as well.
John, if you can bring some additional suggestions to us, that would be great.
I will do that.
Well, let me just say what I heard from every one of the council members is consensus on trying to reduce the proposed levy by 6 cents, keeping it status quo with where the levy is today, as well as funding an additional police officer. If we're able to do that, as I review the memo and consider what's being proposed, I think we have a very good story that we could tell. We would be putting an emphasis again on our public safety agencies, enhancing the resources that we have available there. We would be at a time when many in our community are suffering from the impacts of COVID-19. We're keeping our property taxes as low as we can for them. And at the same time, we are doing a heck of a lot in our community in terms of projects and programs. And so if we can accomplish this, I think we have a really, really, really good story we can tell. Teresa, your thoughts in reaction to what's being proposed?
I'll get to work. I have a couple other things I was hoping to get a little guidance on tonight. That
Okay.
the outside agencies, and then I also I've pulled up the decision package spreadsheet for you, and there's $90,000 for EAB that we either need to take from reserve or we needed to tax for, or I've got to figure something else out for. Same with either the community development the GIS web mapping enhancement, that's $20,000. number 7, number 11, and number 12 and 13. 12, I do believe that I feel comfortable saying that we could use $25,000 of general fund money, knowing that if the project, assuming the project happens in a TIF area, once we've determined that and I know what TIF district it's in, I can reimburse the general fund with the TIF dollars, but I can't use TIF up front without knowing what that's for. So I was comfortable with number 12, where it says Community Development Project Development Fund contribution, $25,000 to have money in there for David and Adam when they're working on stuff as things get going, you know. And then once we know what district it's in, I can get the money back, put back in there from the TIF district that it happened in. But I wanted some sort of feedback on number 7 and the EAV and the video cameras and equipment.
Well, Teresa, I would ask if the direction is to reduce the proposed tax levy by 6 cents, how would you propose that we fund any of these?
Teresa, if I may, and I'm just gonna, realizing we don't have a lot of reserve to work with, but these items are one-time expenditures, and realizing that even though we're gonna use some of our lost funds, you know, for a one-time to pay for the police officer, you know, can we use some of those lost funds as a one-time expenditure for those 3 items? You know,
Well, do they meet any of those definitions? No, I don't know that they,
Why wouldn't why wouldn't the emerald ash removal meet the definition of supportive parks?
they probably would.
I mean, and the other thing I would say is we could cut the emerald ash removal program in half. It's an ongoing expense in terms of, you know, it's like tree removal. We'll always have it. Getting down emerald ash, John's going to get mad at me, but getting down emerald ash trees is important because they're more brittle than oak trees. Oak trees tend to stand if they're dead, but emerald ash trees can get brittle. But, you know, we're in a tough situation.
What if I have met and haven't formalized anything, but I did meet this morning with Matt Greiner. And I think he and I came up with some justifiable options of general fund expenses for his department that could come out of road use tax. If I can find it and I can balance with what he takes out and these items here, are you supportive of those items? Maybe that's my question. So maybe the Emerald Ash Board can't quite be all of 90 like Councilmember Martin said, but maybe I can come up with 45,000 or something as I sit down with Matt and I pencil items out. But the items that Jim has recommended we fund, if the council's supportive of those, I could try that. I could use that direction and feel comfortable. I really don't want to use any more reserve. You know, I know you've been told this by Matt, you've been told this by myself. I'm sure when we issue our debt for the town center, we're going to be downgraded, just like we were downgraded on our annual appropriation, just by a notch. He's assuming we'll go from a AA+ to a AA because we have so much debt. And I don't want to have so much debt plus use so much reserve all at the same time, have so many factors. You know, I need to have something that says, yeah, we know that, but we're doing this. So I really don't want to go any further than the 24, when overall it's really a 30% picture, as we said in the memo to you. So if I could work on that, and I can get you to your 1063.
62, isn't it?
63. Nice try, Mayor.
Oh,
Teresa, did you say number 7 too? Did you have that on your list to look at?
The
Large format printer?
yeah, I think that's a number. One of them we can take out of the $15,000 large format multifunctional device is really a replacement item. So it should have been in the CEP and not here. So that's why I have the initial CEP there. So you don't need to worry about that one. It was the one above that, the GIS mapping and web mapping enhancements, which David, if you're on and you can help me on what that's going to do.
That is basically allowing us to better utilize the software upgrade that we did last year on our GIS system, so we can do better online mapping, which will help overall all of our communication efforts. I used in the description with the decision package, you know, many of us have spent a lot of time this last year looking at all the different COVID mapping that's available online. All of those are built through the system that we have. We just don't have the expertise on staff to build out the platform. So this would allow us to hire a consultant to build out that platform, build up our ability, and then we can populate the data to do all kinds of different online interactive maps using the data we already have and the software that we have.
The other thing I thought of is that video and camera equipment. You know, Janet's taken videos and cameras, pictures of all departments within the city. And I would assume that by April of this year, I will be able to find $7,500 in the various departments spread out. Some in police, some in fire, some in public works, some in the library, and maybe be able to get that covered. So,
great.
Mayor, that's where my head's at.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, let me ask council members, is there anything on that list that you don't want to see funded if a funding source can be found?
I know not to just move forward with number 14X until you have further discussions.
The power pedestals for Terra Park, I mean, we don't have them currently. They will be helpful, but we're not 100% sure we're going to have all the events out there this summer like we'd hoped.
No, and what John told Jim and I here a couple weeks ago was that he thought he'd be able to find that in his current budget if we approve them. So I'll let him talk on that issue.
Yeah, we have the reason for them. The major reason for the power pedestal is Green Days. It's to provide power for the carnival. We're the only community that does not provide power for the carnival, and for all the years of Green Days, we've always had to help out with getting generators for the carnival. So this, first and foremost, this would allow us to do this, but obviously there's a lot of other benefits for other activities that will be out at the park that will provide a much better power source for those types of events, whether it's food trucks or whatever may be over there. It will give us those types of flexibility. As far as cost savings, obviously we've had several things that we have minimized throughout the year. Probably the biggest is that we had a maintenance 1 position that was budgeted for the entire year, and we just actually hired that position last week. So we saved almost 6 months of salary on that position alone. So with that and other areas, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to find $11,000 in this current year's budget and not have to push it forward.
Okay, any others?
I'd just like to speak in favor of using the money for the power pedestals. I do think that's a good investment. And it sounds like we got the money anyway, but I just wanted to.
Sounds like it. Well, Teresa, I think unless you have more questions for us, again, what I'm hearing, the consensus of the group is let's see if we can't get that property tax levy back to 10, help me, 63.
63.
1063. So I guess in response to your question about the outside agencies, that would require them to be status quo as well.
And I support status quo for the outside agencies. I think that's, I don't think that's, I don't have a problem with that.
It's probably not we're probably not the only community that's going to be telling them that this year.
Well, especially given that we're on the where we are on the revaluation, property valuations. This is sort of a tight year, so
Right.
it's a justifiable answer.
Well, we're pushing past our time here. Any other questions from staff for the council or council for the staff?
I just want to express my appreciation to the council. I know we gave you guys a heck of a lot of information, and appreciate everybody's thoughtful review and being able to come to consensus fairly quickly. We'll do the, we'll take the guidance we received from the council tonight and come back at our next meeting with hopefully what will be close to our final budget presentation. So
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you,
Well,
guys.
let's adjourn the work session and dial back in for the regular council meeting.
thank you.
You guys in a bit.